with us now is Senator Mike Lee. He's a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, which heard testimony from Comey last month. And Senator Lee has got a terrific book out called Written Out of History that talks about some of the forgotten founders. Senator, it's a pleasure to have you with us back on the 700 Club.
Thank you very much, Pat. It's good to be with you.
Let me ask you one question, and I think Mr. Comey seems to think the FBI is independent of any of the civilian elected officials in the government, like it's an independent agency reporting to no one. Is that your understanding of the government as we know it?
It's not, and in fact, the person who holds this position is a political appointee who serves at the pleasure of the president, meaning that person can be replaced at any time for any reason the president deems sufficient.
Well, who's the reporting chain is to the Attorney General, isn't it? I mean, he's not just out there doing his thing on his own, is he?
Yeah, that's right. There's a chain of reporting that goes through the Attorney General, and ultimately it's the president who has the discretion to terminate at any time for any reason the president deems sufficient the FBI director. And so it's not as if we have an interbranch thing going on here, nor is it the case that this person stands as the head of an independent agency that is outside the chain of accountability to the President of the United States.
Well, the Wall Street Journal had an editorial today saying essentially that one of the reasons that he ought to go is because he seems to think that he is independent of anybody. I mean, he says, well, I knew the Attorney General was going to recuse himself, therefore, or this is a case that no good attorney would try to bring to trial. I mean, what is he doing? He seems to be usurping the role of the Attorney General as well.
You know, that's what I have a lot of questions about to this very day. Remember when he held that press conference on July 5th, 2016? I remember it well. I'm sure you do, too. As a former federal prosecutor myself, I kept asking myself the question, why on earth is this a function of the FBI? Why on earth is the FBI director, number one, making the prosecutorial decision, number two, holding a press conference about that decision? This should have been made by Attorney General Loretta Lynch, or in the event of her recusal on this or any other issue, whoever was the acting Attorney General, or someone at the Department of Justice. This was not a thing to be done by the FBI director. To this day, I don't think we have clear answers on why he was in that position.
Do you see anything that's come forth so far that indicates that the Trump campaign was complicit with the Russians in some kind of nefarious plot?
Not only have I not seen anything to support that conclusion, Democrats I know who have seen a whole lot of classified information on this, more than I have indicated that they haven't seen anything to support that conclusion. So if something's out there, I haven't seen it, no one I know has seen it, and as far as I know, it might not exist.
You know, Jeff Sessions is such a highly regarded person, but didn't he leave the president sort of naked by recusing himself and allowing this special prosecutor to be named without the president's approval?
Well, look, the moment Attorney General Sessions saw that he could have a potential conflict on this, he wanted to make sure that everything was kept in its proper order and that he and the department would remain above reproach. And so he made the decision to recuse himself. This is a personal decision, and it's an important decision to make. I think Jeff Sessions probably erred on the side of caution, which is probably a good thing to do. The fact is, I don't think there's anything about this special counsel that's going to result in any fireworks. I don't think there's any there. I haven't seen it. I don't know anyone who has seen it.
I'm supposed to talk about your book, but I have to ask you, you're being considered for the potential Supreme Court because you have a tremendous understanding of the law and the principles of federalism. Is that better than being a senator if you were offered such a post?
Look, I'm a lifelong student of the law. I've been attending Supreme Court arguments since I was 10 years old. It was something I thought was interesting. So if the question is whether if I were asked by the President of the United States to consider something like that, of course I would. Of course I would. I'd be honored.